I went to my local Staples store the other day and I wanted to make a copy, and I noticed that there was a sign on the door and it said that they were closing mid-April. So by the time you watch this video, it may be closed already. And well, across the street, they're digging up the ground to put in a new Costco. So I was thinking, things are changing so fast, and they're changing all the time, especially in California. You have stores closing, things happening. There's just change, right? So how do we deal with that? And it's not just in things like that. It's not just like the local, stores and environment, but in our industry, in the publishing industry, things are constantly changing. And in the last, well, I mean, gosh, really, I would say the last 20 years, where publishers are buying each other out, where there's just constant movement of agents and editors, and you just really never know what to expect and new things, right? Like, I mean, Amazon, the explosion of Amazon in the last 20, 30 years, and bookstores closing, independent bookstores closing, big chain bookstores closing. So how do we deal with all this change as writers? Today we're going to talk about change, and is it good, and how can we as writers make it work for us?
You have a story to tell, but you don't know where to start. Let me show you how to free your story. I teach you how to write and how to dig deep in your soul to release your story and make a difference in the world.
Welcome to the Amante channel. If we're just meeting, I am Julia and I'm a women's fiction author, and I like to make videos to try to help other writers who are either just starting out or just like to be reminded of either writing tips, craft, or just, writing life. And I think today's talk would probably fall under just writing life in a way, like how do we deal with all the change that is constantly happening. And sometimes I notice it even more as a writer, because I sit and I like to read like older magazines. I keep a lot of old magazines, and I'll pick one up and it's like, oh my gosh, I remember when this publisher actually existed. And I remember when, sometimes just sad stuff. I remember, an author who I used to read and is no longer around. Because they passed away or whatever, right? Or just no longer writing. So it's constant change, and sometimes it's hard to keep up as a writer, knowing like, where do I place my books and what do I do? How do I handle, the publishing world? And some of it's really good because we have a lot of new technology that is always emerging, and so it can be helpful. Some of it can get in the way, but a lot of times the technology and all the new things that are popping up are making it easier for us. It's definitely easier to research today than it was, 10 years ago. So with the internet, being able to find things, self-correct can be super annoying, but sometimes it can be helpful as well, because it can suggest things. It's like, oh, okay, well, this actually is a better word. Or maybe I did use this word too many times and I should change it, even if I don't accept the word that the self-correct is telling me to do, or Grammarly is telling me to choose. I can realize that I do need to change that word to something else, right? So sometimes technology and all of that, it can be helpful. But then there's a lot of things that as things changed, it really isn't. Like, is it really good that so many publishers have bought each other out and that we now only have a few to choose from? Not really, right? The less choice we have, or the less places or places to place our books, or less publishers, is not really good. So some change is good, some change is bad. But what I really want to focus on is that what can we do to not get bogged down in all the change, and to be able to sort of move forward in the future with writing, if that's what we're choosing to do, right? We love to write. How do we continue to do that as things continue to change? And I think the first thing we can do is to change, to be part of the change, be part of the future. Right. So in order to be able to control at least our own career, we have to be able to be part of the changes that are happening. One is to self-publish. So this is one change that I chose. So with all the different publishers, and I stuck with traditional publishers for a long time, and it's not that I never will go back if I choose to, and if anybody chooses to publish me in the future. great. But I was with a lot of publishers. I was with three major publishers. So it wasn't just like itty bitty publishers that I was like, oh no, no, I worked with major publishers, and there were a lot of frustrating things about working with major publishers. And so one way that I decided to take control was to independently publish, just to publish my own books, where I have control of when my book is released. I have control of what markets they're in. I have control of my cover. I have control of pretty much, well, definitely everything, because I am doing that. I'm hiring people. I'm working with people that I want to work with. I can contact my cover designer and email back and forth and actually say what I like or what I don't like or what I'd like changed. And my cover designer is willing to do it. So I can make certain changes, I think up to 3 changes for free, or, part of the first initial fee. And then if I continue to want to change it, it costs me more money, but I can still change it. But with a traditional publisher, I don't get any say at all, right? So having a little bit more control, this is one change that I decided to move forward with what was happening. And there was an explosion of, when there continues to be an explosion of self-published books. And I decided to be part of that. And that is a choice that you might also choose to make, where you can have more control over your publishing. You don't have to wait for somebody to notice you. And a lot of times in the past, like when I noticed me being part of writers groups, and it's like, well, why was my book picked up and published and another book of somebody else who is in this writers group not get published when they're writing just as good? Well, sometimes it just depends. It's just luck. It's just finding the right publisher, or the publishers, yeah, they just make a choice. Like maybe they already had a book like that came out in the last 5 or 6 months. They don't need another book like that. Doesn't mean that book isn't just as good. So instead of waiting for someone else to choose your book and to publish it, you have the option of doing it on your own. So that is one way that you can move forward, be part of this new future and the change. Okay, the second way that we can take a little more control, be part of the ever-changing future of publishing, is to go direct to readers. And I hear this more and more. I hear people talking about just sell your books on your own, because they get frustrated with basically getting lost in Amazon. So it used to be that you could go to a bookstore and then all the books are there and people can choose. Well, now it's very hard. People are going to Amazon, whatever's flashing in front of them sometimes is what they buy, or they buy only what they know, what they've heard of. So they've heard of this book, they've heard of this author, and that's the book that they buy. They never get a chance to even see new authors and new books. So it gets a little frustrating. And so the option sometimes that people will choose, that people have talked about, is just going direct to readers and just selling books directly through their website or a different way. It has its pluses and minuses, so it is a little more difficult. You still have to go out and find your own readers and get them to your website. But if you have to get your own readers to get them to Amazon and only get a percentage of the sales, well, what's the difference? Why not get your own readers and send them to your website and then sell the books directly? And there are a lot of options to be able to do that. If you are selling, you find your own distributor, and Drafted Digital is the one that I use and I really like, but there are a lot of other ones that you can use. Lulu's another one. So there's a lot of other distributors where you can at least sell directly from your website. They take a percentage, but it's not a lot, not as much as Amazon. And you can sell ebooks. Now, if you get into print books that people want print books, again, that can be a little more expensive. Why? Because you have to get the books printed, and you have to, there's shipping, whether you ship them yourself or whether the distributor ships them, you really absorb the cost of the shipping. Or you can have the customer absorb the cost of the shipping, but then, the price goes up and it becomes a little, it becomes harder, especially if they can go to Amazon and get free shipping, for example. So, but it is another option of just going directly to your readers, finding your readers and dealing directly with your readers. Then you don't have to sell millions of copies. You just have the readership that loves your books and you sell directly to them. The third way that we can get more control, be part of this new publishing future, is to have more control over the relationship that you have with readers. So one of the things when I was traditionally published is I would sell books to who knows who in bookstores. So my publisher would just send the books out to their wherever they were contracted. So I mean, it was most they were big publishers, so my books were wherever books were sold, right? So small bookstores, Barnes and Noble, Borders at the time, Walden Books at one point. So they were in bookstores. I had no idea who was buying them, if anybody was buying them, or if they were just sitting on the shelves until the bookstore decided they weren't going to take up any more space in their bookstore and they sent them back to the publisher. So I never knew who was reading my books. In today's world, it's a lot easier, right? Because things like social media are wonderful because you can have a better relationship with your audience or with your readers. You can they can contact you, you can contact them, they can send you messages. It depends on how involved you want to be. You can have newsletters where you have a relationship directly with your readers. They get a free newsletter from you and you can let them know how you're doing when your books are coming out. So again, you can create a better relationship with readers rather than just random people that you don't know. When you are traditionally published, you have no idea who's buying your books or if they're buying your books. The next way, I think we're up to number 4 now, is to embrace technology and learn as much as you can about technology. This is a tough one for me, right? So I think the older you get, so younger writers, you've been probably exposed to technology since since you were born, right? For older people like me, it's a lot harder because I haven't been, and a lot of it is so new, and so keeping up with technology is a challenge, but it's also a good way to be able to do some of the things that I'm talking about, self-publishing and talk to readers on social media and create newsletters and do all of that. The challenge here is that there's so many things out there, and a lot of the services or a lot of the things that are out there, they might overlap. So I've noticed, for example, that my newsletter, what do you call it, host or whatever, the people that I use to send newsletters out to my readers, I do a lot of things. Then also I pay for Kajabi to host my courses. So I have some writing courses, and these they that you can go there and purchase courses, right? But I'm noticing that my newsletter provider, I don't know what they're called, host, but they don't have this yet, but they're about to have that, right? They're about to create a different product, which is to be able to host your courses there. And so being aware of like, okay, what do these services do? Do they do the same thing? So maybe I can have one that does everything. Or what exactly can I do? Can I create courses? Can I create newsletters? Can I do other things, have little forms for people to fill out? So the more that you know about the technology that you have available, first of all, the cheaper it'll be because you won't be paying for 2 separate things or 3 separate things. There's also things like Canva, where you can design things, create things for your social media, for your even create book covers, right? So what do they do compared to somebody else? And choosing the best technology for you, but being aware of everything that's out there, because there's help for everything now, which makes it again super nice to be able to be part of this publishing industry, because you have so many options up there. You also don't have to do it yourself, which is another thing. If you aren't good at a certain thing, you can hire somebody that knows how to do that. Of course, that does require money, right? But if you have the money, or you find, or maybe you can swap services with somebody, they can do one thing, you can do something else that you prefer to do, but you can get a lot of the things done yourself and have, again, more control over your writing career. And the 5th change is audiobooks. Audiobooks are exploding now, right? So that might be another option for you, is to be able to create audiobooks, either reading them yourself as the author or hiring somebody to do the work for you. I have actually just done that with my latest book. So Let Us Begin. I hired an actor to read my novel. I needed to hire an actor because, first of all, I'm not sure that I can record. I'm going to try with some of my other books, but I think you have to have a really nice recording voice, which I don't know that I do have that, but that really wasn't the reason that I didn't do it myself. The reason was because my main character is a man, and so I wanted a male voice to read the story. So that's why I hired somebody to actually create my audiobook. But the that's a new option, right? It's a new thing, and because it's new, it's a great opportunity to have your book in audio format because a lot of people are looking for more books in audio to listen to. And then the sixth thing that I want to mention that we can take advantage of and move into this new publishing world, it's full of changes, is the various marketing strategies that we can use to sell our books. So in the old days, there wasn't a lot. There was, trying to get interviews with magazines. A lot of people did just swag type stuff. They had bookmarks, which we still do. They, little pens with your books on them. There were different ways just to promote and market your book or to just let people know you're out there. But now there are, again, more ways to do it. Of course, there is social media. There's a lot of different options. One of the things that I'm going to be looking into that I've heard some people talk about is just the subscription model. You see it everywhere now. So everybody has a subscription model where, you even like, TV now, right? All the streaming services that something that somebody likes, they can subscribe and they can get all the shows or whatever for a monthly fee. And even like my plumber now has a subscription model where I can pay a monthly fee and then I get certain things like, first on the list if I call, a yearly look at my water heater or something. There's a whole list of things that they include, and it's like, okay, well, I guess if I called them one time, it would benefit me, so why not subscribe? And so you could have something like that, maybe some kind of subscription service where your readers are getting certain things from you every month because of the subscription that they pay for. So it's another option, something new, another marketing strategy. But there's more marketing strategies now than there were in the past because there's so many different things that you can offer, and there are so many different ways of getting whatever it is that you're creating to your customers. So I think as writers, being able to adapt to all the changes is important because if you don't adapt, then you really are lost because the change is happening all the time. There's always going to be something else. How long are traditional publishers going to still be there? Maybe forever, maybe not. We don't really know. We don't know what things are going to happen in the future that are going to continue to change the publishing, the publishing industry. Also, I guess outside, it's not just where we don't write in a bubble. We don't live in a bubble. I kind of wish we did live in this like literary bubble, but we don't. So, what about like how do you deal with the rest of it? Because everything affects us, right? So when there are stores opening and closing, when there's constant change everywhere, inflation, all kinds of things, right? How do we deal with that? Because that also affects us. And kind of, I'd like to say that the same as you would deal with changes in publishing is maybe try to gain a little bit more control over your surroundings. So be involved more in your communities and try to influence maybe your local area so that you feel like you have more control. It doesn't always help. Honestly, cities and organizations don't always listen to us. I know in my little city, my little community, they're building like this water treatment plant, like, I don't know, like 2-3 blocks from my house in this big open area. One of my neighbors was not happy about that. He says it's not going to be good. It's going to affect the water quality. It's also going to bring in more mosquitoes because you have open water and all this. And he went to the city, tried to argue his point and try to get them to stop it. It didn't really work. So a lot of times it doesn't work, but you can, try, right? You can try to get more involved. Maybe if more people like him had actually gone and tried to voice their concerns, it might have made a little bit of a difference. So you just never know. But what you can do, though, is try to get involved more to try to affect, the changes that you want, or to stop things that you don't want to happen. And at least, the very least, you'll feel a little less lost and a little less confused, because you'll be informed on the things that are happening. It won't just be a surprise, something that's thrown at you and you had no idea that it was happening. Okay, and it's also important to remember that not everything changes, and to notice the things that don't change. So again, it's all, when so many things are changing, so many things are happening, we could tend to feel a little bit lost, or a little overwhelmed, or a little bit stressed. So if we can remember that things, most things don't change. So you still have your same friends. You still have maybe the same routines that you have always had. Yeah, maybe your favorite restaurant you like to go to has now closed. But if eating out was a routine or something that you enjoyed, maybe you find a new place that you like, a new business, and you can support them in your community, so that you do have more restaurants, more stores, or whatever it is that that you like in your community. And one of the things that I like, so if I'm feeling kind of overwhelmed or too many things are changing, is just like to return to things that I know that I love. For me, it tends to be writing. So I will probably I'll go back to my computer and write. I'll go for a walk with my dog. So things that do not change, that remain the same, do give me a sense of, comfort, which is nice. And for the things that are changing, like the publishing industry and world, I try to what I'm suggesting is just try to become part of that future, become part of that change, figure out how it works, and how I can, how I can kind of change with it. Sadly, I might have to. So I probably will have to. So I choose to do that. So I can't just sit back and wish that things were the same that they were 25 years ago when I started writing, because they're just not going to be. So learning more, controlling more of my own future and destiny in the publishing world makes me feel a lot better, a lot more control, a lot more peace, and a lot happier. So I hope that this has maybe made you think a little bit about change and how you can be part of it as well. If it has, if you've enjoyed the video, please hit the like button and subscribe to the channel, and share the video with friends who also love to write. Thank you very much, and have a good day.